What's up, gamers? Metallic Rock back with the Week 6 recap. In the previous week, we got to 2684 and 663 eye level. In Week 6, we were looking to get into a couple of 12s and see how that goes. But first, let's see what we got in our vault last week. We actually had a couple of good items that I had to pick from. The Ringing Ritual Bud is a great defensive trinket. It's a little bit better for Felscard than it is for Aldrachi, but moving into higher keys, I kind of wanted a defensive trinket. In the end, I'm going to go with the Myth tier item slot because it's just better stats, and realistically right now, with the trinkets I'm currently wearing, the Myth Pacemaker and the Leech Tome of Light's Devotion, my trinkets are already really good, and I'm pretty sure that I made the right decision this week, especially with Blizzard re-upping their promise for Dinar coming soon. If I do need a defensive trinket, I will most likely just buy the Galliwix bomb suit whenever Dinar comes out. I did a couple of lower pug keys, 11s through some like 10s, some 11s, no 12s. And then post-raid, we had a full guild group that were looking to push some keys. We had a 13 Darkflame Clef from pushing up some of the keys early in the week. And honestly, I hate how I pulled this here. It's how I've been pulling it the entire season, and I think it's garbage. We really see it in this 13. I should have tagged those moles in on the left. You can kind of see them there, the red bars. And I should just pull all of this back to one of those pillars, and everybody can LOS them and everything will run in. We don't have to worry about these casts going off or the DK gripping anything. It ends up being that people were in raid talent still, and a couple of us are going to die on this pull. So we just go ahead and reset and run the 12, which is not a big deal at all. That's 12, I think, was score for everybody in the key, but maybe only most people. But yeah, watching it back, I actually think that this could be pulled way better. And if you go ahead and we can take a look at the 12, I think I pull it the exact same way. So in the moment, I learned nothing. But, you know, that's why it's good to record gameplay. You can go back and be like, what the hell are we doing here? When you're not in the moment and you're kind of just looking at it. Darkflame is pretty historically easy. It's like one of the easiest keys this season. I will say doing this mini-boss pack before the third boss in the 12 has shown me that it is time to find a route where we don't pull this pack. This pack is super annoying. You can just go up the stairs and skip it. You just have to pull more. I think in the candle cart area and in the beginning, after the first boss, in the big wax guy room, there's like a couple big wax guys that do that AoE. There is a pack in the corner that I never pull, and I think you can pull more stuff in the candle cart area. And that would allow you to skip this. And I really think I'm going to start doing that, because fighting these two guys, it sucks. Blowing all your cooldowns before a boss, like having your DPS blow all their cooldowns before a boss, sucks. They do like forced stuns, which sucks. And they just take too long to kill, which sucks. So, all in all, found 12 Darkflame to be pretty manageable. We actually got to the last boss in 2+ range. I actually had a lot of problems with the extra action button on picking up the candle. I have never had a problem before this 12 or since, but I go and I'm hitting it and it's canceling. Maybe I was moving too early and it was canceling, but it happens like 4 or 5 times throughout the fight. We end up losing a couple people. I don't know if necessarily to it, definitely possibly to it as the candle was getting hit, but we do go ahead and 1+ the key, and that is a 12 on the board, which feels really good. We actually picked up quite a bit of score here. Let's see how much. So this is going from an 11 to a 12, and we pick up 25 score, which is pretty good, just going up 1 key level. All right, that's Darkflame Clef. Let's see what's next. So after that, we jumped into a Rookery. Rookery is a key that I haven't done that many times, but also, like Darkflame, I think, is seen as one of the easier keys. I feel like the easiest keys is Rookery, Darkflame. Theater of Pain, I think, has some of the highest timed keys. I think just the damage profile of that dungeon can be a bit weird. There's like a lot of single target stuff, or like skips that you can do to skip like the big lieutenant mobs on the way to Zav. But Rookery is definitely on the easy side of keys for the season, and I think I felt that here. You know, my health's pretty stable. It dipped down pretty quick there when I stood in all those orbs, but you're not supposed to do that. A big part of what makes Rookery a little bit easier than other dungeons is the complete ability to negate an entire boss that DKs have. So this boss puts out a dot on a player that bounces every couple of seconds. like when it expires on one player, it bounces to another, and I think it does that 3 times. If the dot bounces to a DK that has AMS up, then it will just delete the dot. It will not go on the DK, and it will not go on any other player. DK is the only class that can do this, I'm 90% sure. I don't think Paladin Bubble will do this. I don't think Rogue Shroud will do this. Shroud? Cloak. You know what I'm saying? No other immunity has this ability, so we were able to completely negate an entire mechanic of this boss, which does make the encounter a lot easier as it lowers the defensives needed or the healing requirement of the dot. When it comes to the last boss, we actually tried to go back in the corner and not pull it immediately. The healer had like 30 or 40% mana, so we wanted to drink before that, but we realized we were just in combat and we just had to do it live. We were several minutes away from Lust. We pulled the boss, 3 minutes and 20 seconds left, and I think we were 2 minutes off of Lust. What's crazy is that we actually get the boss down to 36% health, and it applies another shield. And now this shield is actually on for like 30 seconds. It's on from like 1 minute and 15 seconds down to like 36 seconds, but we have Lust ready to go, and we have 26 seconds on the 2+. Is that what that says? 23, 22. Very little time to 2+ as the shield breaks and we Lust, and everybody just starts slamming damage. We end up 2+ing this dungeon with 11 seconds left. Now at this point, it was pretty late, and the mage needed to go to sleep. But the mage was holding the 14 mother load that we got from doing this key, and we were able to deviously trick them into staying on, so that's next. Now, Motherload is also one of the easiest keys. We've been very lucky to roll Dark Flame, Rookery, and Motherload, but 14 is quite the jump from 12, and we didn't even get past one pull of the 13 Dark Flame. That was less for the dungeon and more for kind of just needed to reset for talent changes and stuff, but the damage intake in this dungeon for me was very high. I also was, once again, I'm pulling an old, like, 10 kind of just weekly normal key route, and definitely needs to be changed in these higher key levels. Let's take a look at a pull where I made some mistakes. So I pull both of these pulls with Sigil of Flame so that I have extra parry chance. But then let's zoom into our cooldowns right now. You can see I drop Darkness as these two pulls are running into me. I don't have Feldev. I don't have Meta. I don't have a Sigil of Spite, previously called Elysian Decree. So I have basically only spikes, and I just sent Fiery Brand, so it's on one mob. It hasn't spread yet. I've got spikes. I don't have very many souls generated. I have 3 souls right now. I could start soul cleaving, and maybe I should have. I could have Chaos Nova to generate some souls. I could have Sigiled of Chained to pull the mobs away from me to give me some time to generate a couple souls, or honestly just prevent them from all autoing me at the same time. But realistically, I probably should have just waited for Feldev to come back, or what this actually means is I had misplayed a previous pull, overlapping all of my cooldowns. Another thing I could have done is pulled the second pack with Fiery Brand and had it run into me. I didn't do any of these things, and because of that, you're going to see something that you've probably seen a lot of Demon Hunters do, maybe in your pug keys, maybe in your pre-made group keys, you know? It's Demon Hunter. It's very prone to just falling over dead. Let's take a look. Yeah, so I get B-Res because I was already soul stoned, but at this point, aggro is lost, and when I start generating aggro, I'm just dead, as I still didn't have Meta or Feldev yet. So that's really bad, and the run is kind of probably cooked from this point on already. The rest of the key up to this point, where we're about to pull the third boss, was pretty smooth. Azarok is pretty much known as the hardest boss, kind of the only boss. Except, what is this? Rixa Flux Flame got hands. Do you see that? She is like autoing me for 30% of my health in meta. She fucking slams damage into the tank. This is not something that I was like super aware of. I was kind of noticing it in the 10, but it really wasn't that obvious that this boss was gonna hit so hard in higher keys. But man, yeah, as a tank, make sure you have some mitigation, particularly on pole. I was actually listening to, I think, Grow's podcast or something, where they talk about projectiles when the projectile is in the air, not when it hits you, is when mitigation is calculated. So, like, yeah, pre-metaing or pulling her with brand might help a lot on pull. And then the other big part is whenever you have to switch areas and you're not hitting her. When you're just hitting her and you've got souls and you're constantly healing, it's not too bad. But see, like here when we switch over, you're going to see my health start to drop again because she's hitting me, but I'm not hitting her. So I'm not generating souls. I'm not sucking those souls up with soul cleave. So I don't like wipe or anything. This boss wasn't too difficult. You see I send meta here just because I'm jumping around in the puddles a little bit. But definitely something to consider as you get into higher keys, that this boss actually does kind of have hands for the tank. But as you can see, when she's pushing these DPS and stuff around, they are taking absolutely no damage. So it's really just you, and that means the healer can kind of give you some special little attention on this boss. We pull Razdunk with about 50 seconds left, which is not a lot of time, especially for a boss that has such a long intermission, killing the ads and waiting for him to crash down on the pylons. But surprisingly, actually, with 14 deaths in a 14, is way closer than you would think in this key. 14 deaths in a plus 12 with the extra death penalty is a lot. It's a lot of death or a lot of timer taken away just in the deaths, not to mention the walking back or the damage lost from your DPS being in their cooldowns and dying, stuff like that. So the fact that we did have a minute left with 14 deaths when we pulled the final boss meant that this was closer than it wasn't, and that if we had a better route, I think a route was a lot of the time lost, and also probably a lot of the deaths, just pulling dangerous trash that didn't need to be pulled. So it might take a couple practices with the new route, because that means new execution, right? Like if you're pulling more casters on the way to the third boss, that's probably not something you're as used to dealing with as you are with fighting the mechs in the first area, but the mechs are just so slow and I think very inefficient for count. So yeah, I really think this 14 is doable with a little bit more practice, or maybe even just seeing it 1 or 2 more times. But we're gonna go ahead and finish up this key here. And as Razdunk dies, we can go check what loot we get. No score for this one because I don't know when or where, but I'm gonna open my dungeon interface in a second, and I actually timed 12 motherload already, which I guess I forgot to record or lost the footage, so apologies for that. Motherload is not a difficult dungeon, and a 12 should be pretty doable for most groups. You can see here I have 3 12s for the week, 2783. So, all in all, by the end of week 6, I was 2789. I picked up like 3 score from 2 plussing an 11 that I had previously 1 plussed, the 3 12s, couple 11s, and we were 666 by the end of it with 3 myth items in the vault, as is the way it should be. So, this is currently the week I'm in now. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's video. It was a little bit longer than others, but I did a little bit of explaining that I don't usually do. I think I have decided that when I start timing my 13s, I'll pull those out as individual videos where we'll maybe just do like a dungeon review of myself, going over my cooldown usage and all the mistakes I make, or why I make certain decisions, which are probably the wrong ones. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. If you enjoyed this channel, go ahead and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.